Hello and welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for Gee Whiz-z-z-z-z-z-z. That's according to the title. And with me today to say, golly, gee willikers, gee whiz, with me today are my good friends Camden Spees and Mark Arnold. Say hi, guys.
Hello. I assume this is called Gee Whiz and not Whiz-z-z-z-z.
Yeah, I know. I just played upon that. I thought I'd take it
Yeah.
literal for the heck of it, but I know it should be zzz, whatever. All right.
Z for you?
That's right, Z. That's it, exactly. So a few minutes of info to get underway. So as mentioned, this is a review for Gee Whiz-z-z-z-z-z. There we go. Released on the 5th of May, 1956. It's the 769th in the series, and it's directed by, who else? Chuck Jones. Who else is going to do these? Well, except Rila Reva, but that's beside the point. You can find this beautiful restoration on the Looney Tunes Gone Collection Volume 2 DVD set and on the recently released, at the time of this recording, on beautiful high-definition Blu-ray, the Looney Tunes Collector's Vault Volume 1 set. And I've linked below to both those sets. You won't find it on YouTube unless Warner Brothers themselves choose to upload it. They might. They like to do that sort of thing from time to time. And if you haven't seen this one, honestly, it's a bit of a joke that, hey, I've got to do a synopsis for every single short. But come on, what's the synopsis here? I mean, yeah, you guys know what happens, you know.
He doesn't catch him.
Bruce Wayne's parents die. That's what happens.
There we go. And funnily enough, we will actually even touch upon that in a tangential way. This does have a few bits of trivia that I'll just go through. Some of it's pretty, interesting, at least to me anyway. But it's the last time you'll see the name Charles M. Jones. From here on, you're going to see every credit as Chuck Jones.
This is my question about that. Did I Freeling switch to Frizz Freeling at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
By McKimson, no. I think McKimson, the character that he was, I just don't think he bothered. But I think, Freeling and Jones.
Robert and Bob isn't much for change either.
I want
there's
Bobby.
that, but maybe he just didn't care. He was just like, whatever.
Is this the first Roadrunner cartoon in which there's like no context that he wants to eat him? Instead, it's just like we begin right from the chase. So if you're seeing a Roadrunner cartoon for the first time, there's really no implied reason why he wants to eat him.
No, the very first one, he's on top of the cliff with the binoculars looking on. Some give us a reason, some don't.
It says
Yeah.
Edius Birdius as the Latin translation or whatever it is. And delicious.
Because, we all look at the Roadrunner, immediately think delicious, right? Because we can see how much meat it has.
Yeah, there's not much meat on this bird.
Exactly. But then again, one Coyote, I guess it's good enough. It's interesting that this was re-released as part of the Blue Ribbon reissue program, and as such, it was actually released after the very last Looney Tunes short, Engine Trouble, in 1969. So this is kind of the last Looney Tunes to be released ever in the theater during the original run, technically. So I thought that was weird and interesting. And the title cards say Mil Franklin did the music, but I was having a look, and apparently it was actually Carl Stalling that did it, but for whatever reason, Mil Franklin got the credit, because they were alternating shorts by this point. So maybe it was an error. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, watching this one, this one wasn't actually a childhood favorite. It wasn't on that Roadrunner tape I used to have I watched constantly.
This is one I saw a
Yes.
lot because it was on the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner movie.
Yeah, exactly. So that's mainly where I would have seen part of it. But what's interesting about this one is how each background for a lot of the gags seem to be different. You've got the backgrounds, it says Ernie Nordley, the layouts.
We were just talking about Ernest Nordley, who did the backgrounds, and we were just talking before this recording that he did a lot of the Lone Ranger covers. And if you look at the cover of Lone Ranger 35, the clouds and environment does look not super similar, but similar enough to this. I wonder if his background on these made a dent in how he did Roadrunner backgrounds.
After this, Nordley would go to Disney and he would make things like The Story of Eddie'sburg, USA. But I'm looking at each of the different shots, and I've noticed that some shots look more like what Ernie Nordley was doing, but then other shots look like what Maurice Noble was doing. He hadn't come back, but he does kind of return around this time to the studio. So I'm wondering if Noble did part of this and Nordley did other parts, but Nordley got the credit. It's the kind of thing that keeps me up at night, really. Well, not really, but
Well, what was happening at Warner Brothers at this time?
What happened was you had the shutdown, and both Maltese and Noble, they had gone. And when the units were being reassembled, they didn't come back straight away. That's why you have Jones with Ted Pierce for a while, and you had Jones with Ernie Nordley for a while, and then
Maltese went to Lance, right?
And then part of me wonders if some of this, like especially the opening scene, that looks more like a noble background, and then you got other bits like that battleship plate scene that looks like an orderly one. So I don't know. Again, keeps you up at night. But what we can do is have a look at this short from start to finish, and I'm going to do my absolute best for those of you watching to not just go, "There's this scene, you like it." Yes, moving on. Next scene. Because for us, it's more about looking at the artistry of it, the animation, and just maybe what our favorite gag of all of this actually is. So we can have a bit of fun with this one. Opening up, this is funny to me. This is like a very deep in-joke kind of thing, either way I look at it. When Leon Schlesinger was running things, you would have Leon Schlesinger Presents. But then when Eddie Salsa took over, he didn't want his name on the openings, whatever. He was more like a silent type producer. Whereas here, his name is literally on the billboard saying Gee Whiz.
Well, I'm sure that's probably a Chuck Jones embellishment. You know, Seltzer probably had no interest in having his name, but Chuck slipped it in there just to kind of say, "Oh yeah, here's your name, ha."
Here's your name, and you moonlight doing sign services as well. So I guess producing Looney Tunes is not enough for you. But can we just say, this intro is fast. I mean, there's been a lot of Roadrunners of late that it will start fairly slowly. You would have things like Cody cooking a can, and all that takes a long time to build up, and then he gets fast. Here, they jump right into it, which I thought was a neat little touch.
I think over time they just started getting faster and faster because they've been doing them for almost a decade, you know, and it's like everybody gets it. So let's just get into it. You know, why have all the build?
That's why I was saying, like, at the beginning, there was kind of like a premise to where, oh, the Coyote's like, you know, cooking something or he's doing something else. And now he's just like, he doesn't care. There really isn't context besides the Latin titles that he wants to eat the bird. He just wants to kill it.
Right. Another thing is there is no real beginning, middle, or end to any of these. Exactly. It's all temporary. The ending is just until the next Acme shipment.
And that's why I like how this one not only starts off fast, but literally even starts during the title cards. I love when shorts have interactions with title cards. I know Tex Avery pioneered a lot of that stuff, but here Chuck Jones is doing his own version involving trucks showing the title cards. And then, of course, the big crate, Charles M. Jones landing on top of the Coyote, which was a nice touch. So 40 seconds in, and we already got our first gag, all within the titles.
Back in the days when this was on Bugs Bunny Roadrunner show, they'd cut all that stuff off and just start after it. So I never saw a lot of this stuff till I was an adult.
You've already mentioned the whole Edius, Birdius, and the other one, Delicious Delicious. Again, even if you've never seen a Roadrunner short before, this one sets things up perfectly. You get it in the first gag. But can we just say that the end of the first gag, it's got one of my favorite endings to it. It says, "Egad," and then he has a second sign with the exclamation points. But what an opening. A minute 21. It's an extended bit, to be sure, but it sets things up fantastically. Let's go through each and every one, shall we?
Let's
look at a form of bullet time, which predates the Matrix quite a few decades, involving a bullet. I mean, if you've seen enough of these, you know what to expect, but I can only imagine someone who hadn't seen this before would have been like, okay, anything's possible. That's why I like how they use this gag as the second one, because the first gag has kind of a realisticness to it, whereas this one is like, okay, everything's going to be against him no matter what.
The only thing that's kind of breaking physics or whatever is when the Roadrunner zips off, and they might have done it prior to this cartoon, but when the freeway or road goes up in the air when he's zipping along off the ground, he's going so fast it's lifting it off the ground.
But here we got literal bullet just getting all confused and just deciding, you know what, I don't want to live, or I don't want to, you know, and then he just explodes in Cody's face. It's a great one to start things off. We get the next scene. That's when we see our first background change. So we've gone from the yellow skies, which will dominate a lot of the upcoming Wile E. Coyote shorts. That's why I think the beginning part feels like it was Noble returning, and he started that. Whereas this purple scene looks like it's something Ernest Nordley did. But again, you know, it's stuff that keeps me up at night, you know. So we're on to the next one. The Battleship Steel Armor Plate. I mean, how great is this gag? Just the expression on Cody's face. Just like, what the hell? again, anything goes. You have to wonder, though, what exactly happened here. We now see a gag involving the fishing rod and the stick of dynamite. We've already seen a similar gag before. They always seem to like to do these fishing style gags where the flame follows up on the line and ends up going into the whole box of dynamite.
I'd have to think by this point they've got to have started to repeat gags and just them to make them better.
This one, look, it's one of those gags where you've sort of seen similar things a million times before if you've seen them.
Yeah.
But again, if this is Soul's first Roadrunner, I'm sure they will go and kick out of that. But we get to the one gag that everyone remembers. And we all know what gag that is.
Yes, and this is the one I had the action figure of. And this is the one my friend Ben Olson, who Mark knows, has made an entire living painting in acrylics. Ben Olson is an artist for the Chuck Jones Gallery, and he also has done paintings for DC, and he's done paintings for Disney, he's done painting for Star Wars, whatever. And he's basically made a living off of this particular scene where he's put this coyote in the Dark Knight setting. He's done all sorts of stuff. He basically pays for his children to go to school off of this one scene, this cartoon.
The design of this Batman, which, look, I don't think they were lifting up from the comic books or anything.
In the Adventures of the Roadrunner special, when they mentioned the Acme Batman outfit, when they reused that on the television screen, I think they were absolutely reusing that gag, referencing the coyote looks more like a frog man, or like the lizard man in the Johnny Quest cartoons.
Well, they probably didn't want to get in too much trouble because DC and Warner Brothers weren't connected back then. DC already had its issues with the Batboy and Reuben thing in Mad. And I'm sure Chuck Jones knew about that. I'm sure everybody at Looney Tunes read Mad.
The funny thing is, in this one recording session, just as an aside here, we're recording this one and Stupid Duck. We've got Batman in this one, and we're going to have Superman in the other one. But the gag itself is perfectly timed, and I just love the music, the triumphant music that you hear in the beginning when he's got his costume on, he's all ready to go. Honestly, even aside from the fact that this gag's just hilarious with the way it's all timed and the way he falls down, but just the way, like, just how is this supposed to even work? I mean, come on. Sometimes the Coyote will do stuff where logically you think, okay, it could work, and maybe if you try it again, it may actually work. How is this bat suit supposed to even work? As adults, when you think about these things, it just makes it even funnier to me.
Even the real Batman isn't supposed to fly.
He's more gliding than flying.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of the gag, when it's actually working for like a minute or like 3 seconds probably. And he's like in bliss because, and then bam, that's the end of that. It's like his one little bit of success in all these Looney Tunes.
Moving on to the next one, we see one anvil and one giant rubber band, which, again, is something that you could potentially see as working if you just tweak things a little bit, unlike the Batman suit.
I was thinking, after doing this for about 10 years, it's like you got to run out of basic ideas and the basic laws of physics. I bet they found it was funnier if they kept bending things and exaggerating things to the point where it's just, this is where the series hits its stride, just because now they don't have any restrictions. They can just basically do gag, 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 gag. If it makes sense in the context of the Roadrunner world, let's do it. It may not make sense in the real world. It may not make sense in another type of Looney Tune, but if it makes sense here, let's do it. And that's probably what they realized by this point.
And we didn't even see the Roadrunner in those two gags. So the Batman gag and this gag is just Cody just failing, and that's that. So nice quickie gags. And it's possible a lot of these gags that we see here may have been cut from earlier entries and just reused here because you just slot them in and off you go. But in the next one, we do see the Roadrunner, though, which involves this one gag involving the stick of dynamite. And I don't even know what that contraption is called. Mark, you might know.
I don't know, a top shelf grabber. There's no
right.
official name for that in my mind, but an extender. How about that?
Extender,
Some
there
sort.
we are. But I like the fact that in this one, he actually tests out the gadgets, unlike a few times before
Yes.
where he seemingly doesn't. So it sells the gag even more when he actually tests out the said gag, and then in the real world, when he actually tries to use it, well, we all know it fails, right?
Yeah.
We also got the topper. So you've got the fact that he flings him backwards, again, breaking the laws of physics, as we like, and then, no, we don't leave it there. We just blow up the side of the cliff. It's fantastic. It's another good one. But sometimes when you see like gags like the next one, which involves the painting, say, hey, the bridge is out, they're doing variations of previous gags. We've already seen the painting gag similar to this before, but this time around, it's done completely differently. Roadrunner this time goes through the painting, but then as soon as the Coyote does, he goes in the painting, unlike the other way. And again, you don't even have to see the original version of this gag either. It just works so perfectly because by this point, you've accepted that anything will happen, and it does. The next one is the plunger gag. Nice quickie gag. Plunger doesn't work. Cody goes on, and as soon as he does, the plunger magically decides to go down.
Murphy's Law and a cartoon.
Yes. We then go to our final gag, and this is, again, the sort of thing that's associated a lot with the Coyote, and that's involving some sort of a rocket device. I know this is not a rocket, it's like a jet motor thing, but it's kind of like him on a rocket, really, if you think about it. And we get one whole extended sequence involving this wonderful chase.
Nice that we got that great Raymond Scott music in the background.
We do hear Powerhouse. I think this seems like one of the last few times we'll hear Powerhouse in the Looney Tunes short. I'm not sure if we hear it again. My guess is, due to dwindling budgets, is that they use less musical cues. So unless it's in the public domain, it costs money. But we get a little twist with this one. So we get the whole thing where, okay, that you got your usual chase. The Roadrunner, again, there's a callback to the very first scene where he does that square turn, that completely logical turn. Cody misses it, switches up the engine of that thing and realizes, oh, he's going to fall off. A great way to end things because we don't even see the impact, you know? How about ending this cartoon before I hit? And we get a nice little thank you. And we end right there. This is another one of Chuck Jones's, one of his best series, period. Another masterpiece by Chuck Jones. I mean, this one will get 10 out of 10 for me because it really, I can't fault this short at all. All the gags hit. I mean, literally to the Coyote, of course, in this case, except for the final bit where we don't see the end hit. But it gets into it so quickly and just, the animation design, everything's on point. I can't find any fault with this one. No, it's a perfect 10. I love this one. Yeah. And I'm sure you guys agree. 10 out of 10 as well.
10 out of 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, I think when I interviewed Dan Senker on my podcast, we discussed this very one. I said it was probably my favorite one. And I'm not a big Roadrunner Coyote fan anyway, so it's like, for me to say that means it's probably pretty darn good.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
But yeah, it's a perfect one to show anyone who has never even seen the series. But even if you have, it's definitely one of the best entries in the series. So there's that.
Yep.
But in any case, that will do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And until next time, take care.